Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. Recently, I released a video in which I called into question whether we know the full picture when it comes to the comics that we are buying. And I am specifically talking about the fact that we don't have access to print run information. And as I read the comments that were left on that video, I was stumped a few times and wanted to come back and clarify a couple of things for people out there that watched that video. And if you haven't seen that video, I definitely want to encourage you to go back and check it out. What I am telling you for a fact is that I am not calling our entire hobby fraudulent. I am not saying that it is a fraud. What I am highlighting is that there is an opportunity here. There is an opportunity to improve the transparency associated with the collectibles that we are buying. And that transparency could come from printers, publishers disclosing the total print run associated with comics that we are all buying. And some may say that this information is confidential or proprietary, and they don't want to give us this information because it could be used against them competitively. Well, I have a few responses to that. One, generally speaking, both Marvel and DC are owned by some very large organizations that could buy the entire industry out in its entirety, right? If you think about how many billions Disney made in Q4 of last year, it far exceeds the entire year's gross revenues that come from the hobby of comics as a whole. So in many ways, both Marvel and DC get rounded off into the zero. So it doesn't really matter all that much. But let's say that it does. Let's say that it does. Don't give us any print run information from the last couple of decades. Give us the silver, the bronze, the golds, and the copper age, right? Keep all the modern, even though modern is 40 years old. If you don't want to give us that information, that's perfectly fine. But there is an opportunity here to improve the transparency associated with the hobby. Now, some have basically said that printers, publishers don't owe us a single thing. Well, they are right about that. But what I will tell you in my mind is that transparency breeds trust. When there is trust, that could lead to greater revenues. And so if you want to get me, keep me as a customer, be transparent, be honest. And through that, I will give you more money because now there is a relationship there that goes beyond just the transactional. That is a great way to be able to build some loyalty. And again, my goal with raising this question isn't to say that the industry is fraudulent, but to say that there's an opportunity for us to do a little bit better. The reality is that we are coming off a high. We are coming off of a euphoric high where it didn't matter how much money you spent on a comic because the market was so hot that even if you overspent, the market would continue to increase and make that bad purchase a good purchase. But that is not the time period that we are in right now. People are starting to think a little more critically about the decisions that they are making. And so the video that I just released is very similar to a video that I released a couple of years ago, basically saying the exact same thing. My goal is to inject or to continue injecting into this hobby things for people to think about. Rational questions that will hopefully get people to stop and ask themselves some questions. It is not to say that the industry is bad. It is to say, hey, think about what they're saying here. In many ways, what publishers will say is that something is a limited print run. To some degree or another, that is being used as a marketing tactic, as a sales tactic, potentially versus an absolute fact. And this is a potentially a bad analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. It is like saying that something is low fat or low sugar. And technically those things that have those labels are, but that's not the whole picture. Because if something is low fat, what they oftentimes do is add sugar to it to make it taste better. And if it's low sugar, they add fat to it to make it taste better. So yes, it is the thing that is on the label, but it's not the whole picture. You could eat one of those or drink one of those low fat or low calorie, low sugar types of things and still be completely unhealthy because it's not the whole picture. And what I'm asking for is to give us the whole picture, give us the whole pie, instead of forcing us to look at the individual slices to try to figure out what the whole might actually be. So yes, we have sales data. Yes, we get some print information that they will give out to us, but we have sales data. We have CGC and CBCS data. We can go to eBay and see how many books are actually listed there, and we can get those narrow slices of the pie that might represent the whole. But wouldn't it be great if we had the whole pie? And then we can look at those individual slices and see what else is missing. That would be cool. That would give us some idea of what has actually survived over time. I had somebody say survivability is more important. Well, survivability of a comic is just a slice of the pie. It's not the whole pie. I'm saying give us the whole pie and then let us examine those individual slivers within their proper context. So hopefully this clears up some things and maybe even creates an opportunity for a publisher or two out there to step up to say, this is how many comics we actually printed. This is how many we shipped to wholesalers. This is how many were destroyed, right? If they could paint that picture, in many ways, that level of transparency could be good for the industry. It could be good for the relationship with that publisher. And certainly it would be good for people that are collectors within this hobby. But like I said, hopefully this helps maybe clear up some of the confusion as to what I was actually trying to say in the last video. And again, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. If this does clear some things up, let me know that down in the comment section as well. As always, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yo, should you practice art, or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it, not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know, the one that's gonna be a master, the one that's more than a rapper, the one that's an educator, the one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts, he's got the mindset expansive. He understands that his time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan, straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations, synergy and combinations. You fly and we waiting, Indian style in the gold.